If you thought we had headlines yesterday in the Percoco case, wait till you hear the latest. The prosecutor's star witness, Todd Howe, has just been arrested. How will that impact the corruption trial of the former top Cuomo aide? And remember when Republicans were deficit hawks who fought against spending and debt? You don't have to think too far back. Well, maybe those days are over. What does the party now stand for? We're going to ask two Republicans who join us at the table. Then President Trump defends another man accused of abusing women. This time, it's Rob Porter, the former aide who just stepped down after domestic abuse accusations from not one but two ex-wives and girlfriends. Now, the White House in damage control yet again. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Well, a big week in the Percoco corruption case, and it just got even bigger and even more intriguing. Todd Howe, the former lobbyist who was cooperating with the feds, has just been arrested by the feds. That's just a day after he took the stand, and it is all connected. Fox 1's Ray Ramundi. He is live in Lower Manhattan with the very latest. Ray?
Yeah, Rich, Todd Howe's arraignment hearing here at federal court lasting only 180 seconds. Tonight, the prosecution's star witness, he's sitting inside that correctional facility you see right here behind me. His bail has been revoked after damning statements he made during court testimony yesterday. Todd Howe arrived inside a federal courtroom, disheveled, with messy hair, black sweatpants, and a gray long-sleeve T-shirt. The prosecution's star witness's bail conditions revoked after Howe admitted in court he had not informed the government that he tried to improperly recover the cost of a $600 luxury Manhattan hotel room just weeks after signing a cooperation deal in 2016 with the government.
Todd Howe told the truth on the stand, despite the fact that got him in further trouble with the government. He's now in jail as a result of it.
The arraignment hearing lasting a mere 3 minutes. Lead prosecutor Janice Eckenberg requested Todd Howe's bail conditions be taken away. U.S. Federal Magistrate Stuart D. Liston informing Todd Howe of his rights. Todd Howe agreeing to the terms.
It says that Todd Howe wants to stay in the good graces of the government and felt that there was no basis to oppose the revocation of his bail.
The developments, a major blow to the prosecution's case, who banked on Todd Howe's testimony about his relationship to Joe Percoco and how both planned an alleged fraud and bribery scheme. Howe has spent the last 4 days on the witness stand, the last 48 hours, his credibility torn apart by defense counsel.
What you'll hear from the defense counsel is to say that even when this man tells you he's changed and he's going to tell you the truth, he's now telling you that that's not true either.
Fios One obtaining this sealed document, which shows the signed copy of Howe's bail disposition sheet. There's no question prosecutors will be spending this weekend digging deep, trying to find out any more information they can on their star witness. Todd Howe, believe it or not, will be back in the witness stand when court resumes on Monday morning. As far as his matter with his bail, he is expected to be back in court on March 2nd, Richard.
All right, thank you, Ray. Nice job. And as Ray mentioned, Todd Howe back in court, and he will have more withering cross-examinations. Continues after a very brutal Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Now, outside the courthouse, just yesterday after the Percoco trial wrapped up for the day and the week, Dominic Carter caught up with defense attorney Barry Borer, and he spoke about Howe.
What did we see in court today?
Well, it was extraordinary. We told the jury at the beginning of the trial that they should wait for cross-examination. I think we told you guys you should wait for cross-examination. And on cross-examination, this witness has been exposed for who he is and what he is.
Well, former federal prosecutor Dan Goldman joins us now, as is Dominic Carter, political journalist, author, and he's also been covering the trial for us every single day. Dom, set the scene for those of us who haven't been there, because clearly we all knew that Todd Howe was a cooperating witness. He explained both how the alleged bribery worked here, how the low-show job was set up for the wife of Percoco, how Percoco's influence within the governor's office would help secure contracts, and also connect the relationship, how close it was with both Percoco and his former boss, and how that all worked. And then explain from both the testimony to the cross-examination, to forget about what happened today, just how, I mean, you've covered a lot of these. You've never seen anything that really brutal that you saw in the courtroom, did you?
Never before. In 32 years, I've never seen a cross-examination go down like this. Every defense counsel will tell you, wait till we get the star witness on the stand. And basically you go, yeah, because it's like pregame hype, but this time it lived up to it. I don't know who prepped Mr. Howell. And okay, you asked for the chronological order. Things were slow yesterday. In fact, the big story as of about 2:30 yesterday afternoon was Judge Caproni telling to Percoco attorney Bora, wrap this up. How long are you going to go on cross-examination? He went for about a day and a half. And he started the very first question, boom, going after Howell. And when the judge told him...
And specifically about Howell's credibility,
yes,
and how he's lied about basically every single aspect of his life.
Everything. About how he lies about almost anything and everything. And watching him on cross-examination, it's almost like a bad therapy session in terms of watching Mr. Howell. And so you clearly get that he's so afraid to make another mistake that he knows the federal prosecutors are right there in the front row, and they know that their case could go up in smoke with what he has to say. So he's afraid of offending the federal prosecutors, and he fell right into the trap. But I just want to say, so Judge Caproni said, wrap it up, you got 7 minutes, and then that's when Bora started where he finished where he started. Boom, boom on credibility. And then the lawyer for one of the business guys got up, and that's when they set him up for the big trap. They got him, he set him up. You understand your confidential, your cooperation agreement?
Let me just set it up with the audience, what you're saying. Obviously, he was a cooperating witness,
right,
you know, is Howell with the feds. They knew that he was no, you know, pure as the driven snow, but they laid out specific qualifications to live up to the agreement that once they did, he couldn't perjure himself anymore here. He couldn't do any more bad acts, and that's where...
Exactly, Richard. And they made him state on the record, I guess what the counsel calls getting him to go on the record. You understand you couldn't violate this agreement, right? This cooperation agreement, right? You understand you couldn't commit another crime, right? Right? And then that's when he went in for the kill. What's this charge to the Waldorf Astoria? Here's what I want to know. How in the world did the defense attorneys get that information?
Well, let's ask Dan, because Dan, you've been in the unfortunate situation as a prosecutor where you know you don't have a very credible witness, even though what they'll testify as it relates to this case might be credible, but their prior acts certainly aren't somebody that you want to have dinner with. And then you sit and you cross your fingers that under cross, they're not completely decimated, so they have no credibility. That happened in real time yesterday. Go through what it was like, what it must be like sitting as a prosecutor, and there's nothing you can do about it.
This is the prosecutor's worst nightmare. You spend weeks and hours and hours and hours preparing a cooperating witness to testify both their direct examination, and you start to prepare them for what cross-examination is going to be like. The prosecutors opened on the fact that Todd Howell is not someone that you want to have dinner with and is not going to be your best buddy, that he has done a lot of bad acts, and you're going to hear about a lot of that. I'm certain on their direct examination they went through a lot of the credibility issues that he has to front those. What the prosecutor hopes for is that there are no surprises on the stand. And what happened yesterday, when there are these surprises about him not only lying about misconduct, but doing it after he pled guilty to his cooperation agreement, is a prosecutor's worst nightmare.
So now you're the prosecution, and you're caught, I would think, in this catch-22, where you still need to have this guy's testimony help you secure a conviction, but at the same time you have somebody who just violated an agreement. And he's coming back on the stand on Monday to continue to be cross-examined. Talk about what their choices at that point were. Arrest the guy, now move ahead. How do you navigate this where he's cuffed and stuff on a Friday, and then on Monday he's back in the courtroom as your star witness?
Well, he's on cross-examination, and the prosecutors cannot speak to him over the weekend. So that's one thing. They are likely to be preparing for the rest of their case. And what they're really going to try to do, and what I think this arrest on the conditions of bail is essentially to try to distance the government from the witness.
Do they rip up the agreement, Dan?
Well, that's a very, very tricky question. But just if they're going to go forward, And that has happened before. And in fact, I know of a case where a cooperating witness was caught lying on cross-examination. On redirect examination, the prosecutor got up there, took out his agreement, ripped it, and said, your agreement is ripped up. You're no longer a cooperator anymore. He had lied completely, and they got a conviction. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination. But what the government needs to do is they need to distance themselves from the witness, because the biggest risk they have right now is the sort of prejudicial spillover onto the rest of their case. If Todd Howe's credibility problems in the eyes of the jury are aligned with the government's credibility problems, you've got a real big problem. If they can separate...
It's also just, if you pull the curtain back, when those prosecutors leave and they got to go back basically and talk to the boss, is the boss ripping him a new one saying, why did you have an agreement with this guy? Couldn't you guys have gotten a conviction without Todd Howe? Is that calculation already been determined before what happened yesterday, or is that being rethought in real time?
In terms of his original cooperation agreement or whether to arrest him? His original cooperation agreement is only agreed upon after several layers of review within the U.S. Attorney's Office. So this is not a decision that the prosecutors in the courtroom are making by themselves. They're obviously, everybody's relying heavily on them because they're right on the front lines. But the government often signs up cooperators who have committed crimes before, who have lied. The U.S. Attorney's Office will sign up murderers who've committed murder.
But to Dom's point, when the prosecution in all likelihood was sitting there, and all of a sudden the cross, they hold up the Waldorf Astoria bill, whatever, were they as surprised as the jury?
My guess is yes. I can almost certainly say yes, because if they knew about it, they would have done something about it, either on direct examination or more likely before the trial.
Now, Dom, you told the story, and I know we're heavy, Larry, that one of the alternate jurors came out yesterday after the testimony, and they said, might as well declare a mistrial now. Now, the judge read the Riot Act and all the rest, but you don't believe this is any grounds here for a mistrial. And as much as maybe even the prosecution might like it and start all over again without Howe, this is it. He's in the mix.
The only way there would be a mistrial is if somehow over the weekend Howe knows that there's a lot more stuff that he did that is violated his bail conditions or were perhaps additional crimes, and he takes the Fifth Amendment when he takes the stand on Monday. That would be the way there's a mistrial. Otherwise, there's no way the defense is asking for a mistrial because they caught a guy red-handed lying, and the government can't ask for a mistrial because their own witness lied.
It seemed, at least from the optics, Dom, that and I know that he spoke off camera with you, that they were angry, the Percoco side, on how this had gone in the early stages. They certainly were standing a little taller on Thursday.
No doubt about it. Obviously, we can't reveal private conversations that we've had with Mr. Percoco and his lawyer, but I can tell you this much. People around him, they're pointing at Preet Bharara. Now notice, it's almost like Giuliani. Giuliani, much splash, all these indictments, and then he moves on to his political career, becomes mayor, and many of the cases are overturned. So what I'm hearing is that people are saying, hey, listen, this is the new guy. He's the acting U.S. attorney. He didn't bring this case. Preet Bharara brought this case, and he also brought the case against Norman Seabrook, the union leader, and that case
I want to caution everybody,
was tossed
I thought
out.
there was some pretty damning evidence that was presented in the beginning, and you yourself said it here. It didn't look good. It is by no means a foregone conclusion how this case ends here, but certainly a dramatic change of events.
Don't count the government out.
If
their documents are good, then they can show that Todd Howe, what he said, matched up with the documents. And even though he's a bad guy, he was chosen by Percoco and his co-defendants, not by the government to be a witness.
And again, the ZD's still out there. All right. Dan, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Stick around, Dom. Coming up next, when Republicans would rail against the government spending, also blast Democrats for the rising deficit, you don't have to think too far back when those were realities. Now the GOP is spending, and the deficit is soaring past levels never seen under Obama. What does it mean for the GOP? I'll bring on two Republicans to help me answer that question.